Thank you so much for tuning back into the On Deck Integrated Communications Social Media Playbook series. We were on a brief hiatus while Black athletes were using their voice to talk about social justice issues. It just felt kind of wrong to assign as much weight behind our social media tutorials while those conversations were really at the forefront. And while they are still incredibly important to keep going, it seems like a little bit of the smoke has cleared in regards to opening up less important conversations as well. So, while we were on hiatus, we did a lot of educating of ourselves, me in particular. And even if you think you know a lot, there's more to know. So I would just encourage you to talk to your Black friends, especially in the sports arena. It's enlightening to find out how much racism is still very prevalent, unfortunately. So I would encourage you to find a way to just learn something about it. And even better, to take action. Today's the last day to register to vote. So if you haven't, I would encourage you to do that as well. All that preachiness out of the way. Thank you for tuning back in. You're probably wondering, why are you in a leather jacket, Kate? I thought you said in the last video, this was mostly going to be like you and your hoodie collection. Well, like any entrepreneur, I'm filming myself shooting a wrestling promo on a wrestling podcast after this. So, I wanted to rock the old school look. Shining Wizards podcast. If you are into sports, if you are into wrestling silliness, I would certainly encourage you to check them out. They're coming up on their 500th episode. They've worked really, really hard to build an incredible fan base, and we're doing some sponsorship work with them. So check them out for sure. But to dig into social media, which is why you are tuning in. Today, I wanted to talk about goal setting and platform selection, as we promised in our last video. Goal setting and objectives being a really key element to everything else, because it kind of says what you're targeted to, right? It's what you're aiming for. And there's a lot of programming that might sound like really cool ideas, but if they're not related to your goals, they're kind of a waste of time. So making sure you keep your eyes on the prize is really important. You have to have a prize to keep your eyes on in that regard. So that should be your goal. Goal setting advice here is not much different than goal setting advice in general. We define goals in the public relations space as kind of the overall mission that you're trying to accomplish, raising awareness about something or generating buzz around something are kind of the more common ones. And then the specific and measurable and time-bound stuff we call objectives. So those objectives should always be supporting your goal, essentially. So if your goal is to raise awareness, your objectives might look something like gain 100 followers in 2 months. That's specific, measurable, and time-bound. There you go. Gain 100 followers in 2 months. Having, an average of 10 interactions on a post for the next 4 weeks is another really good one. So just making sure that your goals are set out to basically be what you want your social media to accomplish, and that they're related to research that you've done around that. And your objective should always be in support of those, so that you know that you're actually accomplishing that goal and it's not something that just feels good. Communications can kind of sometimes get knocked down for that it's, not necessarily something that's a super tangible result if it's not specifically like selling tickets or something incredibly marketing specific. That's the big public relations knock, is that it's image based, but social media kind of ties all of those things together. I consider social media to actually fall more under the PR umbrella than the marketing umbrella for that reason. Definitely supports both, kind of supports those two things and advertising, to be honest. That's a video for another day about how social media has turned all those things on its head. That's why we have an integrated communications approach, but making sure that you have something specific to grasp onto is not only really important for your own brand, but if you are an agency that's watching this, to be able to prove your results, you also want to have something that is tangible to measure against. It's also really important for when you're not meeting those objectives. What's going wrong? Is the programming off? Is your research off? Was your goal off? Are the objectives too lofty? Are you succeeding at one objective but not the others? So making it specific makes it easy to identify what's working and what isn't, essentially. That's kind of all there is to it. Making sure it's related to research is incredibly important and something that I think is probably undervalued in the communication space. You don't really know what your goals are unless there's research to support it. You need to know that something is going to be a good idea before you set out to do it. It's kind of like the easiest cheat in the world, to be honest. It's, to me, the foundation of what drives a successful campaign versus an unsuccessful campaign. So do your research, find out what's happening with your competitors, find out what's happening within yourselves. Doing internal analysis is really important. Have a really, really clear picture of what you're setting out to do before you're set out to do it. Kind of that simple. So that was quick. We made it through. Definitely opens the door to a lot of questions, but specific, measurable, and time-bound is really, 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 really important. Particularly if you're an agency trying to show other brands, but also internally for yourself, so that when you have to turn around to answer to any stakeholder, you have something to talk about. The next thing is a little more complicated, and that is platform selection. So a lot of people will tell you you should always be on X, Y, and Z platforms. I completely disagree with always being on X, Y, and Z platforms. Those are usually Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, now TikTok probably. But I think a lot of people end up on those platforms because of how it's related to their goals. So basically you should let the goals be driving what platforms you're going to be on instead of vice versa. It's really, really, really important too, I believe, that you differentiate your content across those platforms, because if I'm a consumer or a follower or whatever, why am I going to follow you on Twitter if you're just posting a link from your Instagram? Why am I going to follow you on Facebook if it's the same stuff that's on your Instagram feed? Why am I going to follow you on TikTok if it's the same videos that are on your YouTube? That kind of stuff. Redundancy will absolutely kill you, and it will burn out your fan base hardcore. It's really dangerous. So don't do it. However, that does not mean you need to invent new programming across the board. You can take the same picture and use it on all of your platforms. You just have to put it in a different context. So a picture on Instagram with a cool caption can really spark engagement. On Facebook, you might want to use that same picture, but tell the story behind that picture in a little bit lengthier of a way. Kind of talk about the significance of it. Really give them more insight into why it's captivating rather than just like a quip. You might use that same picture on Twitter to ask a question and to spark engagement that way. So you can recycle content, just don't do it in the exact same way. In your platform selection, every platform should have its own unique goal or objective. It's something that I feel like is undervalued. It's something that I'm not good enough with my own brand at, to be honest. I'm usually hustling for my clients, and I got lazy about my own social media. So that's like something internally that I have to look at. But it's really, really important, because if you want people to follow you on all these different things, they're going to get bored and they're not going to engage at all. And it's really going to kill you. So let the research and the goals for those platforms be the thing to determine whether they're relevant or not. Don't let what your competitors are doing determine that specifically. Don't let it feeling professional or unprofessional to be in a certain space do that specifically. Because I'll tell you what, there's something really cool about being one of the only politicians on TikTok. There's something really cool about being a podcast and creating really cool visuals to go along with that on Instagram. So get creative, dig in, let the research and the objectives and goals guide you. Definitely don't reverse engineer your way into it, because then everything is going to not only feel meaningless to you, but to your followers. If it feels meaningless to you, if you're just recycling it over and over again, the people that you're trying to get to care are going to care even less. Like, this is something that's supposed to mean something to you. You work there. So the people that don't work there, not going to give a crap. So a little preachy. I got a little fired up about it, but it's really important. And I think it needs to be talked about a little bit more in this space, because people are like, oh, I'm on YouTube. What YouTube content are we putting out this week? It's like, no. You should determine the content and then the platform for it. So I think I've made that as clear as I can with as much tenacity as I can. So I hope that clarifies things for people. Definitely good to really dig your hands into that research part of it. It's going to determine a lot for you as far as your goals. Seeing what other people are doing, seeing other successful case studies, And getting creative, it'll spark things. When you've seen past success, it's how you can kind of bank your future success. So definitely check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at kate@ondeckic. On Friday, we will be also answering those questions in their own video. And you can also find us on social at ondeckic on Twitter, at ondeckic on Instagram as well. And we hope that you tune in for the next one of these. Appreciate your time. Have a wonderful week.